We're picking up Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson for the quarterback position. Oh, if you want to hear the uncensored part where I'm cussing about Daniel Jones, you got to go on Patreon.com. No, I'm kidding. Fuck that shit. Anyway. Now, this is Mr. Hornsby 3. This is the Mr. Hornsby 3 show, and today I am going to be doing a football talk video. I'm going to be talking about my Indianapolis Colts quarterback situation, what I expect from our new defensive coordinator. Also going to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. Talking about the Dallas Cowboys situation with freaking Micah Parsons. This has been going on for 2 years now, and quite frankly, Dallas is stupid if they let that guy walk. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about a few other football related things, and then that'll be it. Yeah, I just, I started out the opening bit making fun of the Patreon stuff because I'm just sick of people saying, "Oh, join Patreon, and give me your money for my crappy opinion on things sometimes, Give me money. That's what it's all about. Anyway. But I want to make a couple of announcements and, talk about a few things I forgot to talk about in the last video, which was, Wednesday? Not the live stream. I'm not going to talk about the live streams. But first off, I've decided to do Halloween Figure Havoc on October 10th. So I can do something else on the Friday before Halloween. Plus, my wife and daughter is going to be on vacation. So yeah, I just figured I'd do that. Next up, I want to talk about a few movies I might have missed. And, somebody, kindly was a douchebag. Oh, yeah, people know about those movies. No, I'm just joking. Head Metal Turtle was talking about. Oh, yeah, but some of those movies are underrated. Just because you know about them doesn't mean these other people know about them. But, shoot. I'm on the camera, fudge. But, yeah. Halloween Figure Havoc will be October 10th. And a couple other movies I forgot. Movies like The Lawnmower Man. Did I say Wishmaster in the video? I think I said Wishmaster. And, and I completely forgot the other ones I was going to talk about. So, yeah. Something like, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, let's get on with football talk. You ain't here to hear me, try to justify the picks I picked for my freaking movies. Anyway, so let's get into the Indianapolis Colts quarterback situation, because the Indianapolis Colts quarterback situation is very convoluted. They went out in free agency, got Daniel Jones, paid him a lot of money for a 1-year deal to possibly be the backup to Anthony Richardson, but quite frankly, my understanding is neither quarterback has really stood out at all in, oh yeah, 976 Evil. That was another movie I was going to talk about because I just watched it the other day. Them movies are underrated. Anyway, but, they're like, oh, we're going to get competition for Anthony Richardson. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. Who are we going to get? We going to get Sam Darnold? We going to get somebody else? Still, we get Daniel Jones. But anyway, but seemingly neither quarterback has stood out. Apparently Richardson has looked good in practice and that. He looked good in practice last year. And we saw the final product last year. Daniel Jones, I don't know why they went with Daniel. Why couldn't they just bring Gardner Minshew back or something? I mean, give real competition. That's not really a competition because Anthony Richardson, maybe it was a way for people to stop hollering for Anthony Richardson not to have his job and for you know, people to say, we got to have Anthony Richardson start because if we had this guy start, we're going to be terrible. Hold on a second. Rosie, God darn it. But yeah, people's gonna be clamoring for Richardson to start over freaking Daniel Jones. First thing I said was like, oh God, Daniel Jones. And I got an online friend named Reggie who's a fan of the Giants, even though he lives in like Louisiana. But I'm like, you know, and he's like, oh, Daniel Jones is a good. I'm like, no, it's not. He's a garbage quarterback. How is this a competition? I mean, seriously. Am I the only one that thinks this is a freaking joke? Everybody's like, oh, you know, and Daniel Jones is going to start over Richardson. No, if I had the choice between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, I'm going with freaking Anthony Richardson. Daniel Jones sucks. He had freaking Malik Neighbors his last year and the year before, I think. And he still couldn't do nothing. He couldn't lead his team to nothing. But yet, we are signing Daniel Jones, you know, and I haven't talked on this subject at all since it occurred because, you know, I've made hints of it, I've mentioned it here and there, but I'm going to completely talk about this situation now. This is a complete freaking joke. I mean, seriously. How the hell is Daniel Jones competition for freaking Anthony Richardson? We should have got Sam Darnold, or we should have got somebody else. Justin Fields or somebody. That would have been real competition for Richardson. Instead, we let the frickin' Jets sign frickin', what's his face? Fuck. Dude the Bears got rid of. I forgot his name now. Anyway. It'll come back to me, but, you know, I think I just said his name too. I don't know. But yeah, that would have been real competition. Because those guys would have probably brought out the best in Richardson. We'll see. I mean, you know, the competition, the only thing I've seen where they put in competition is at the end, secondary, and all that. But seriously, you say Daniel Jones is competition for Richardson, you're freaking crazy. And all these freaking idiots, these yahoos on ESPN and all these other sports networks are saying, oh, well, the best choice for the Colts is to go with Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones, he's Daddy Dimes, even though he sucked for 6 fucking years. But he's Daddy Dimes. Fuck that shit. He sucks. Daniel sucks. You know, he's a terrible quarterback. But you know what? Since it's competition, maybe Richardson will play better this year. I mean, he already went and worked with the guy that helped frickin' Josh Allen become the superstar quarterback he is. Maybe Anthony Richardson could turn into that with his help. But Daniel Jones as the frickin' competition is what you chose? Yeah, boy. Oh. Maybe we should have got J.J. McCarthy last year. Is that the guy in Denver? Yeah. Maybe we should have got him. Because, I mean, hell. Daniel Jones is not that good. And when I watched the game, the preseason game, it looked like Richardson was doing a little bit better than what Daniel Jones was doing. Because I wanted to watch the whole full point of the starters, which I'm going to get to another point here in a minute too about what happened in that first game against the Ravens. People blame Richardson for it. I blame the coaching staff because I'll talk about that in a minute though. Let me get a drink of this. With the Freddy Krueger can holder, which, you know. But, oh my God, you know. First off, you're supposed to be assessing these guys to see which quarterback's better. But yet you don't have the whole starting offensive line in playing. You don't have Taylor in playing. This is supposed to be a make or break year for us. You know, that's supposed to be a make or break year for freaking Steichen and Ballard and all that stuff. Maybe even Richardson. And the only 2 guys that are going to be starting on offensive line that we're in are Tana Bordolini and Matt Gonsalves. no Braden Smith, no Quentin Nelson, and no Bernard Ryman starting. Now, I didn't get to see the game Saturday because they didn't air it, but, you know. I mean, can't assess them in the first game of preseason and say, oh, you know, the starter. This guy's going to be the starter because, you know, even with that bad freaking line, Richardson's that good. Even though he should have picked up that freaking blitz, which he didn't, but he should have, and he got blitzed, he got sacked, he messed up his finger. You know, I put that on the coaching staff. You should have had the starters play at least a series or two in the freaking first game of preseason. Which I'm going to talk about the problem with the preseason in a little bit later on in this video. But you should have had that line right in front of... You should have had the full starting line in front of Daniel Jones and Richardson to see who would do better with that line, full starters in. Not let these guys sit out just because, you know, they think... I think that's one of the reasons why we've been so bad. Because even in the Peyton Manning years, yeah, we didn't play the whole preseason game, but at least Peyton Manning then would play at least a drive or two, maybe sometimes three, maybe play through the whole first quarter, maybe play a little bit through the second quarter, but you know, and look what happened every year. Yeah, they didn't have a great preseason record, but every year they start out the season really good. I think that's one of the problems the Colts have had. They're just like, oh, we're just not going to have the starters play. And that's the problem with a lot of teams. Probably why a lot of teams start out slow, which I'll talk about when I get to the Bengals in a minute. But, I mean, what the hell? You know, the Patriots at their peak, they would at least play at least a drive or two with the starters in a preseason game. They wouldn't take the chances. And this is supposed to be the NFL's supposed to be safer now more than ever. But we still get a ton of terrible injuries throughout the year. For every team. And people get hurt worse more now than they did back then. So either two things are wrong. Either the NFL is not as safe as they think they are these days. Or these freaking players are so soft that the littlest thing can injure them. I mean, seriously. They've made it so much to where these players are so soft now, the littlest thing can injure them. I don't know. It's just stupid to me. But you're going to sit there and say you're assessing these quarterbacks for this competition, and then you're going to sit there and not have the full starting offensive line in at least. I mean, yeah, you don't need to put Taylor in because you know what Taylor will do. But you're not going to have the full starting offensive line in? Seriously? What the hell? That's too, I don't know. That's, you know, you only have two guys that are going to be the starters because they're replacing two other guys that are really good. But, I don't know. It's just stupid. You know, that they freaking are just doing this. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's freaking dumb. That you didn't have the full starters in that first game against the Ravens. It was like, oh, you get to see what how they assess it in training camp. How many years over the years has a team looked good in training camp and then they end up sucking in the regular season? That's supposed to be when games matter, right? They end up sucking. They start out 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, all that jibber jabber. Although they look great in training camp. They look good in training camp. And yeah, even though they didn't start the starters in any of the preseason games, they're still freaking there. Which, you know, now, talking about that, let's transition from my Colts and the quarterback situation. Because, you know, I think Richardson should win this. And if Richardson can't beat Daniel frickin' Jones, then, yeah. He don't need to be a starting quarterback if he can't beat Daniel frickin' Jones as a quarterback. And he needs to be cut if he can't beat Daniel Jones as the starter. I'm not saying he should be cut now for no reason. I'm saying if he can't beat Daniel Jones as a starter, then that means he's never going to improve. That means he needs to be cut. That means we need to be looking for a new quarterback next year. I don't care what anybody says about it. It's just a make or break year for Anthony Richardson. Yeah, it is. Some people are saying no. Yeah, it is a freaking make or break year for Anthony Richardson. Because the new coaching staff is going to want their own quarterback that they know can win. Because if we don't do nothing this year, we're going to get a new quarterback. Anyway, enough about my Colts. I'll go back to my Colts later on in this video. Let's get into the preseason. So, first preseason game, first of all, it came on at the last Thursday of July. That usually never happens. Usually it's the first freaking week of August that we see the Hall of Fame game, but not this year. It was the freaking last Thursday of July, which was kind of weird. You know, I don't know why they went with that. And apparently, my understanding is I don't think any of the starters started in that game for the Chargers and the other team that was in it. And then, you know, not only that, we get preseason week 1. Not a lot of teams really had their team had some of their starters starting. I mean, you've got to have your starters starting for at least a drive or two. Or at least a quarter. So they can get the feel of the game so they'll start out better when regular season comes out. And see, so many people say, oh, well, preseason doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Winning and losing in preseason doesn't matter because you end up being a good team in the regular season. But, seriously. They just say, the starters just say, we're going to sit. Yeah, and that's why some teams start out slow. And because they don't play at least a freaking drive or two or maybe a quarter. Doesn't hurt to play at least one freaking quarter. You know, and you're risking your guys getting injured for a meaningless game. But it's better than a guy being in a meaningful game and getting injured for the year because they freaking weren't prepared for being hit and all that crap. Which is just, you know, stupid. But anyway, I mean, preseason, I guess maybe they should abolish preseason. Because I'm one of those people that always say, well, preseason matters because, you know, at least you got to get the guys to get the feel. You got to get the feel of the game. Playing one freaking quarter or one or two drives gives you a better way of getting the feel for the game more than sitting on the bench every single freaking preseason game. You know, I don't get it. At least do 1, 2, maybe 3 drives. Play at least a freaking quarter. Do something. Then start changing in the second quarter. Because you're like, oh, yeah, our guys are ready. We know they're good. Let's go. But they're just like, oh, we know our guys are good. We'll be all right. Boom. The only teams that have the distinguished honor of doing that are those top-tier teams, like the Chiefs, like the Ravens, like the Bills. But the Bills start slow a lot of times, too. You know, they start slow. The Eagles. Those teams can afford to sit their players for the whole preseason because they're the top-tier teams. They got so much freaking talent on their team. They're so good that, you know, them are the teams that are in the playoffs every year. And the fact that you all just sit there and sit on your freaking laurels and like, oh, well, we went through the grueling grind of camp and, you know, we're not going to play a preseason game, not even a drive or two. Yeah, I mean, it's just dumb. Maybe they should abolish it and just, you know, have the season start in August and run it till January. I don't know. Let's do 1,000 more games. Let's not have a preseason. Let's do freaking, you know, 25 or so games a year. Which, you know, honestly, that's something that I think, you know, People will get tired and bored of. I mean, I think the schedule with the football season was fine when they went from week 1 to week 17. Now we get week 1 to week 18. But apparently that doesn't, apparently that'll be a way to, run players more risk to get injured. Runs them more risk to get injured, adding more games to the frickin' thing. Like, let's say a Patrick Mahomes, one of the top star players in the NFL right now. I know a lot of people hate the Chiefs right now, and people are not fans of the Chiefs, but let's say Patrick Mahomes has to play 18 games, and then he gets hurt in week 17 because they're trying to play a full game. And, people are going to gripe and complain. The sports networks ain't going to cover that team because the star quarterback went down. That's what happened with the Colts. That year, Peyton Manning was injured before they cut him, which I thought was the biggest mistake the Indianapolis Colts made. But you know what? It is what it is. Look what happened. And we went and got Andrew Luck. Look what happened with Andrew Luck. He has been retired since 2019. Peyton Manning played from 1998 till 2015. Didn't get injured much. Maybe those last couple of years of him playing, he got injured a lot. I don't know. Didn't get injured a lot. And because of one big injury that gave us a bad season that showed how terrible we were without Peyton Manning. Yeah. But anyway. It's what it is. But yeah, I mean, come on now. If you do a ton of games like the NBA does, you're not going to be as popular as you once were. Because, the NBA is popular, but it's not as popular as something like the NFL and that. And that's because we don't have a ton of games that we have to sit through to watch for the whole freaking year. NFL season is usually over by February and January, February. NBA season doesn't end until late May, early June, and starts in November. So if you want to do a ton more games, that's going to run people risk to get injured. Even worse, which I've talked about before plenty of times about that. I don't know. It's just freaking crazy. I don't know. It's just crazy that they want to keep adding games to the regular season. But then preseason plus, these coaches are like, oh, we don't want our guys to get injured because we want them for the regular season. Sometimes it's good for a player to get injured because they could be a bad player and then you put in a good player in their place and look what happens. It's happened with all the greats. I look at Tom Brady and Doug Flutie. The Patriots were going to die on that bridge, or not frickin' Doug Flutie, what's his frickin' name, was it Drew Bledsoe? I think it is. Drew Bledsoe. No, it was Drew something. I don't know. That guy was bad for the Patriots. And then when he got injured, guess what? The Patriots got Tom Brady. And guess what? The Patriots won 6 championships. Now, yeah, a lot of that has to do with them cheating. And then, the games being handed to them by the freaking other team and all that. But, yeah. Still, they got 6 championships. You can't deny the history of what the Patriots had, and most of those championships came with Brady. Again, with Brady as the freaking quarterback, so yeah. And the freaking Bucks, I think won another championship with Brady as their quarterback. So yeah, maybe it's good that player gets injured. I don't freaking hope for somebody to get injured. See if we can get a better player. But maybe sometimes it's good because then you find a gym player that you didn't think would be as good as the guy you had in there before, and they end up being better. And Brady was way better than Drew Bledsoe or whatever his frickin' name was. Tom Brady was way better than him. And I know people's gonna, because I hate Tom Brady, but you can't deny how great he was as a quarterback. I can't deny it anymore. Because he went to Tampa and won a championship without Belichick, without cheating, without having the game handed to him by the other team. But yeah, so I can't knock Brady anymore. Anyway, yeah, I mean, come on now. You're going to get guys injured, and yeah, sometimes that might be a good thing because you might get a better player than what you had. But still. If you're worried about injuries for preseason, you're going to get even more injuries in the regular season. And then like a star player like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a frickin' Lamar Jackson or something, they get injured, they ain't going to be able to play in the playoff game. So you ain't going to get ratings for that playoff game because they're injured because you had to pay 20-something games. But back to my point about the preseason. The preseason, the frickin' team should at least start their frickin' players for at least a drive or two, or at least a quarter, and then start changing people in the second quarter. And then for the rest of the frickin' quarter, it's all backups. Rest of the game, it's all backups. You're in the risk of injury, but honestly, less people got injured when they were playing preseason games a little bit more. Like for a quarter or so. So, I don't know. I hear so many people dog about how they hate the preseason. Yeah, the preseason, when you got the starters just sitting the whole game and not starting at all, unless you're a bad team that has to get a starter to prove they could be the starter, that's a different story than, you know, anything else. You still got to get the feel for the game. And I think a quarter or a few drives in a quarter can give you the feel back for the game. That's why so many teams start out slow. Speaking of teams that start out slow, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh boy. You know, actually, I'll be honest with you. You know, so many people say, oh, well, you know, the Bengals, they got this great offense, but their defense is garbage. And the reason why I want to talk about the Bengals is because I was just watching an ESPN First Take episode, and they were talking about, you know, what the Bengals need is the window closing for Joe Burrow to win a championship and all that jibber jabber. I'm going to explain, since some people still don't understand why I'm not a Bengals fan and I'm a Colts fan. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, when I get back to my Colts, because I also got to talk about this Dallas thing. But, you know, Chad Johnson said, you know what? They don't have to have a great defense. All they got to do is make the stops when it counts, which is true. And they could win games, because their offense could win the game for them. Problem is, and that's the problem with these teams these days. Problem with my Colts these days. They don't make the stops when they need to make the stops. If you make the stops when you need to make the stops, you're gonna win championships. And one thing, you know, everybody used to say, you know, in the old style NFL before Roger Goodell took over, defense wins championships. Not always, because there's been a lot of, I mean, look at the Ravens in 2000, in the early 2000s. Their defense was the best defense ever. Were they in the Super Bowl every year? Hell no. But, you know, defenses that make a stop when they need to stop at the key moments is the teams that go to championships. I mean, you think the Bills defense is one of the greatest defense ever? No. You think the freaking Chiefs defense is always the greatest defense ever? No. Do you think that, you know, the Steelers, they always have a great defense and they don't make the Super Bowl much? You know, you got to have a balance of good offense and good defense. But you also got to have a defense that can stop, that can make plays in the clutch moments to win. And I think that's something people's lost sight of. And I think that's even old school football fans, you know. Yeah, Tampa and Baltimore both had mediocre quarterbacks when they won their first Super Bowl championship. And they had these super great defenses. But, you know, and I guess you could make a case for the Giants when they had Eli. But Eli was at least decent enough to make the plays when he needed to make. But yeah, I kind of agree with Chad. You know, all you got to do is make the stops when you need to make the stops, and the Bengals probably would be a better team. But yet these idiots want to get rid of their best pass rusher and want to hold on to a second receiver, you know, who wants a lot of money, who pretty much are going to pay them almost as much as they're paying their number one receiver. When you could find another second receiver perfectly fine, if you have the right scout team in that, you could find another second. Look at the Colts during the Peyton Manning years. We had, you know, we not only did we get blessed with good running backs, like we had Marshall Faulk when Peyton Manning was first brought in. They trade Marshall Faulk, bring in Edgerrin James. Then after that, Joseph Adai is not as great as Marshall Faulk and freaking Edgerrin James, and I'm not saying that, but he was decent enough to be a good running threat. Him and Dominic Rhodes in that Super Bowl year. Them two were very dominant. And in the 2007 year, when they could have went undefeated again, now, a lot of people say something about the 05 season when they could have been hit perfection, but then they signed them, and, you know, everybody hates Bill Polian for that or whatever. But, you know, you got to make a balance. You got to have perfect offense. You don't have to have perfect. You got to have an offense that can make the plays when they need to make them. And you got to have a defense that can stop the plays when they need to stop them. And really, you think about it, yeah, the Bengals have had good defenses. Good offenses. With, you know, Burrow, Chase, and friggin' Higgins. I'm going to need a palate cleanser talking nice about the Bengals again. But, you know, I do live close to Cincinnati. I got to say something about the team that's supposed to be our home team. But even though they're in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we're in Kentucky. But, yeah. Anyway, I can see why people in Newport want to cheer for the Bengals. Anyway, let's get off. But, you know, there's been times where Burrow has made plays that he shouldn't have made in clutch games where they could have did something and could have had a better record. And, you know, you cannot wash the taste out of your mouth from them losing their first freaking game last year to the shitty Patriots. Patriots are not what they were in the early 2000s. They are terrible now. And you lost to them in the opening game. Like, wow. This is like, because I think the Bengals, they don't start all their starters in the preseason. Their starters do not play at all. Burrow does not play at all in the freaking preseason game. Not even a drive or two. He sits the whole freaking preseason game. And then look, the Bengals start out not so great. And then they have to freaking end up at the end of the year trying to fight to get in the playoffs and hope for other people to lose and other people to freaking do this and that for them to get in the playoffs. Which my Colts are in the same boat as them, as the Bengals are. But, you know, you got to hope that this team screws up, this team screws up, this team screws up, and then our team will get in. And for a team that took their franchise quarterback, who's been better than any of their recent quarterbacks outside of Carson Palmer, let's not forget, Bengals thought Andy Dalton was the thing, but he wasn't. He was terrible. I don't even think he's in the league anymore, or he's playing backup for Dallas or something, I don't know. Or New Orleans. But this guy, Joe Burrows, is good, but he does make bad mistakes in moments he shouldn't. And I'll be honest with you. People's going to be shocked with what I'm about to say. I'm shocked myself. Definitely going to have a palate cleanser, so I'm going to have to say something bad about the Bengals after I say it. The Bengals, that year they were in the Super Bowl against the Rams, they could have won that game. They should have won that game. They were the better team. But the Rams were the more clutch team. They were more clutch than what the Bengals were. That's why the Bengals lost. And that's why I got the joy of pissing off all the Bengals fans when they lost. I even freaking came on here, did that Diamond. I even freaking did the Diamond Dallas Page smile. Did the freaking Major Payne laugh where I'm like, and I went, Or I did the Eddie Murphy thing where I'm like, ah! So, I mean, yeah. The Bengals were the better team in that Super Bowl. They were better than the Rams, but the Rams were more clutch. Their quarterback was more clutch than what Joe Burrows was. So, yeah. And people compare, Burrows to Lamar Jackson, and yeah, both guys pretty much choke in big games, yeah. But, yeah. They were the freaking better team on paper. But the team that was more clutch is the team that won the Super Bowl. That's all you got to do. You got to be clutch on both sides of the ball to win these important games. Especially in playoffs and especially in Super Bowls. Just like the Niners, when they beat the Bengals in the 80s. Both times they played them in the Super Bowl. Maybe the Bengals were a better team than the Niners. Maybe the Niners were the better team, but they were also the more clutch team. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, it's about being clutch. And that's the thing. There's not a player on the Bengals that is clutch. Maybe Jamar Chase. I'll say maybe Jamar Chase. But Burrows apparently is not that clutch, because if he was, he wouldn't make bonehead plays that cost the team the game. No matter how great of a quarterback he is. He makes some bonehead plays. And he's not as clutch as like a freaking Matthew Stafford or anything like that. You gotta be the clutch team. I mean, and that's what I've seen in these recent Super Bowls. The team that's more clutch is the team that wins. The last time when the Chiefs beat the freaking Eagles in the Super Bowl a few years ago, the Chiefs were more clutch. But then we saw that the freaking Eagles dominated, but the Chiefs were making a comeback, but then the Eagles were clutch and they clamped down and they finished off the Chiefs. That's what you got to be on in football. And I think a lot of people have lost sight of that. Everybody's all about the big numbers that Mahomes puts up or the big numbers that Allen puts up. Oh, they could do this and that, and big numbers Jackson could put up. The big plays that Burrows makes, but then he makes also bonehead plays. So, yeah. So, yeah. Bengals were the better team on paper, but the more clutch team. It's not even about who had the better defense. It was about who was more clutch when they needed to be clutch. And the Rams were more clutch when they beat the Bengals a few years ago. All right. Talk about Dallas, and I'll talk about their new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. And then I'll end this video. But let's get into Dallas. First of all, I am so sick and tired. I don't give a damn who it is. ESPN, NFL Network, any sports channel covering sports, all they talk about is the damn Dallas Cowboys. Why? The Cowboys have not been relevant in years. The Cowboys can never get to that hump. They're not the Cowboys of the 90s, where they were Super Bowl champions and all that jibber jabber. Instead, you're talking about, you're wasting a frickin' segment, wasting frickin' time to talk about another team, to talk about the stupid ass Dallas Cowboys. Every time I see somebody say, we're going to talk about the Cowboys this whole show, you know what I do? I change the channel. Right, well, when we talk about the Cowboys, we get ratings, yeah. You get ratings, my ass. And the first Thursday night game, I won't be watching. One, I'll be in Newport doing my ambassador thing. Two, I'm not going to rush home to watch the Cowboys and the Eagles in the first frickin' NFL game of this season. I'm going to wait till Sunday before I watch my first NFL games, which is the 7th of September. I am not going to watch the Cowboys and Eagles. I'm so sick of them saying, oh, well, NFC East games, they draw the most ratings. No, they don't. These idiots have such a bias for the NFC East that they'll play anything to do with NFC East, and they won't put no other team really on there unless it's a Packers game or it's a frickin' Ravens and Bills game or something like that. But most of the time, most of the Sunday night games end up being stupid NFC East games. And it's like, oh, God, why? Why do these teams get the more freaking Even teams like the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you see the Chiefs games played a lot too. But why does the NFC East get so much freaking love is beyond me. Just stupid, especially the Cowboys, who haven't been relevant in years. The last time they did something was in the, what was it, 95? That's the last time the Cowboys did something. When they beat Bill Cowher in the Super Bowl and the Steelers in the Super Bowl. Which, by the way, I think the Steelers probably had a better defense than the Cowboys in that game, but the Cowboys apparently were more clutch. Which is what I was just talking about in the last segment of this show. But one thing I will say is, the Cowboys are being very stupid with not re-signing frickin' Micah Parsons. They paid all that money to frickin', what's his face, Dak Prescott, who is an overrated quarterback. They paid all that money to overrated receivers. But yet the guy that actually produces year in and year out for them, they're not going to pay him a damn thing. This is one of the reasons why the Cowboys have not been relevant since 95. Because they do stupid stuff like this. They frickin' they make stupid decisions. Yeah, let's re-sign Dak because he's really great. No, he's not. He's overrated as hell. CD Lamb, we got to re-sign him because he's great. Overrated. What has Dak and CD Lamb done that's proven they needed to get paid what they asked for? Absolutely nothing. What has Michael Parsons been? He's been one of the best pass rushers in the last several years, and they're not going to pay him what they want, what he wants. And they're running the risk of losing that guy. How stupid can you be? To pay an overrated quarterback a lot of money, to pay an overrated freaking receiver a lot of money, but yet you don't want to pay the guy that's been getting real good results for you. That's just like the situation with the Bengals. They are so stupid that they're going to try to get rid of Trey Hendrickson. He's their freaking best guy. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league, and you're going to get rid of him. Why, so you can pay T. Higgins when you can find another second receiver in the freaking draft or in free agency next year? I don't know. It's just stupid. Also, something I heard a rumor about. I don't know how true this rumor is or not. But it seems like Cincinnati wants to create a dome so they can get a Super Bowl here. And you know what? I think that'd be good. Where they're going to put it in Cincinnati, who the hell knows? Because there's no place where you can put a dome in Cincinnati that's going to be big enough for a dome like the frickin' like the way Indianapolis has their dome. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they will. But anyway, besides the point. But yeah, you're stupid if you're not going to pay your guy the money he deserves to keep him. But yeah, you'll pay an overrated quarterback and an overrated frickin' receiver, who in big games drops a lot of balls, who in big games throws interceptions. Right, I'm talking about quarterback and receiver. CD Lamb in a lot of the big games the Cowboys have had drops a lot of balls. Dak Prescott in a lot of big games they have. And the reason why I know this is because all these stupid fucking networks want to put stupid fucking Cowboy games on the fucking channel all the fucking time when nobody wants to see the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody cares about the Cowboys. They're a washed up team. We don't need to see no Cowboys on our TVs. There's other teams that deserve to be on TV more than the damn Cowboys do. Or the other outside of frickin' Washington and frickin' Eagles, because Washington and Eagles are going to be pretty good teams this year. Outside that, the NFC East should not be being featured as much as it is. Especially fucking Cowboy games. Nobody cares about the Cowboys anymore. All these media channels and all that need to realize that. Nobody gives a damn about the Cowboys no more. Now it's about the Chiefs. Now it's about the Ravens. Now it's about the Bills. We don't want to see the Cowboys. And the Eagles and, the Cowboys games are getting 4 o'clock spots on Fox. For what? They suck. Doesn't matter who the Cowboys play. They could be playing another sucky team. And they're still on TV. Nobody wants to see the Cowboys, especially if they're a bad team and then they're playing another bad team. Put better teams on that people want to see. I just had to go on a rant for a minute because that, I'm getting so sick of hearing about the damn Cowboys. Every NFL season, training camps. I'm watching NFL Network because they usually go around talking about other. All they talked about was Cowboys. The whole fucking training camp was the fucking Cowboys. Nobody cares about the Cowboys. They suck. They're overrated. Their quarterback's overrated. Their receiver's overrated. The only good player they got on their team is their pass rusher, and they're about to lose him because they're idiots. But yeah, we gotta sit through a frickin' Cowboys game. But if the Colts, if they're a bad team, and they play another bad team, their game's not gonna get aired. Another thing too, this is mainly because of the area I live in, but I get sick of having to watch Bengals games all the time. Especially when the Bengals play at bad teams. If the Bengals are bad and the other team's bad, why do I want to watch that game? Air other games in the place of that. Not just when the Bengals are on a bye week or they're playing on a Monday night or when they're playing on a Sunday. I don't know. I am so sick of the frickin' Cowboys. Nobody wants to sit through a shitty Cowboys game, especially when they're playing another shitty team. And then, this will be the Cowboys year. No, it won't. It's not going to be their Cowboys year. They're going to let their best player go for overrated players that they paid way too much than they deserved. But let's talk about the Cowboys. That's why I stopped watching a lot of sports shows, because all they talk about is fucking Cowboys. I used to like NFL Network, but, now they become a channel that talks a lot about the Cowboys. ESPN First Take. I like when Stephen A. makes fun of the Cowboys, but then they have like 5 or 6 segments that just talk about the Cowboys because Marcus Spears is one of the people on the show that come in for debates. I don't care about the Cowboys. The team's overrated. All their players except for Parsons is overrated. And you're going to sit there and keep force-feeding us the Cowboys on TV every single week on a Sunday night football game, Monday night football game, 4 o'clock games, 1 o'clock games. They give us ratings. No, nobody pays attention to a fucking Cowboys game. Except for stupid media people like Stephen A. Smith and frickin' NFL Network people. And ESPN. Those are the ones that care. The fans don't care. The fans don't want to see the damn Cowboys all the fucking time on their TVs. Man, I'm getting really hot. Because I'm getting tired of it. The fans do not want to see the Cowboys in prime spots. They are not a good team. Quit hyping them up like they're a good team. Quit freaking talking about how good Dak Prescott is, because he's not. Quit talking about how good CD Lamb is, because he's not. They're overrated. You want to talk about how good Micah Parsons is? Yeah, he's really good. He's one of the best pass rushers in the game. He can't play well against the run, but you know what? His job is to get to the quarterback. Boy. And then we see the moronic Cowboy fans. Why can't Dallas games just be local to Dallas? Or the state of Texas? Why do we have to see it nationally every single week? Every freaking Cowboys game, every year on Fox, is featured. If they're a bad team and they're playing another bad team, then boom, we still got to sit through the garbage. I'd rather watch the frickin' Cincinnati Bengals than I would the frickin' Dallas Cowboys. Honestly. Alright. Calm yourself. Hey, no, stay, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's get to final things about my Indianapolis Colts. I'm still sick of people bashing Kwity Paye. I've said everything I've had to say about Kwity Paye. He's our sack leader. Not even DeForest Buckner got more sacks than him. People still say he's Garbo. And say, Latu and TJ Tuamaleolia and all them are going to be better than him. They're going to replace him. Blah, blah, blah. He's a terrible pass rusher. He's an average pass rusher. The guy has had 8+ sacks the past couple years. He's been closest to 10 than anybody else. Especially homegrown freaking Colts players. These are the same people that freaking wanted Kamoko Ture to stay on the team. These are the same people that even though we freaking lost what's-his-face was past his prime, they still went and signed him. Everybody's like, well, Ibukan, him and Latu's going to be the two big pass rush specialists. Maybe. But is Ibukan going to be what he was in 2023? Probably not. I don't know. Not only that, I think Lou Anarumo's system might help out somebody like Quiddy Pay better than what Gus Bradley's and frickin' Matt Eberflus's did. Because, yeah. Maybe his pressure rate needs to go up more. He needs to be better at pressuring people. But the sack total is not the issue. It's just the pressure issue. Okay, yeah. He needs the pressure better. I'll give people that. But to still bash him after being the sack leader last year and, getting 8.5 the year prior. I hope he freaking gets 10 this year so people will shut up. I don't know, but anyway. I am stoked for Lou Anarumo. I can't wait to see what this new defensive scheme looks like. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to get to see the game because I had to watch Red Zone and they show clips and highlights. And then even them, they show fucking Cowboy highlights. Oh my god. Anyway, but yeah. I'm excited for Lou Anarumo. And I think our defense will be better this year than it had been the last couple of years. But, we'll have to wait and see. There's a reason why the Bengals let him go last year. His defense was terrible last year. But, a lot of people say, well, that was on Lou Anarumo. That was on lack of talent. Yeah, but see, good coaches can make new talent too. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do good. Hopefully Richardson gets better. Because I am not going to watch my Colts have Daniel Jones starting and we're going to suck. We might suck a little bit more with Aaron Richardson, but Richardson has a better winning record than fucking Daniel Jones does. So, I don't know. Anyway, we got Tyler Warren, so that's exciting for us. Maybe he'll do something for us, but we'll see. Anyway, sorry this was a long one, but this is almost as long as a live stream, so. But, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. Get some football topics out. Talk about how I'm sick and tired of seeing the freaking Cowboys every single week. All that other stuff. But anyway, if you like this video, leave a comment, subscribe for more. Follow my Facebook fan page, Mr. Hornby 83 Show. Follow my Facebook business page, Trigen Toys. Did pretty decent at the world's longest yard sale. Didn't do as good as I did the last couple years, but it was still good enough. But anyway, even though that was 2 weeks ago now, almost 2 weeks ago now. I'll catch you guys Wednesday for the Nightmare on Elm Street video. Hopefully it won't be as long as this. And then Friday, I'm probably going to do a freaking live stream just talking about all kinds of wrestling stuff. Wrestling figures. Wrestling, current wrestling, old school wrestling, all that stuff. So I'll be talking about a lot of that Friday. Yeah, I'll do a live stream. Because my freaking TV for my retro games is fanned out. And I do have plans to play Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that's for newer generations. But I want to wait a little bit until we got in October and all that to play those games. But, it is what it is. Had that TV a long time. Hopefully I can get a new one by next week or something. But yeah, I'm going to have a freaking live stream talking about all things wrestling. Old stuff, new stuff, wrestling figure news that came out the past week. And, a couple other wrestling things. Catch you guys later. Peace out.